Well, we have something interesting to talk about since it's anniversary month. And that something is a little thing called Islandhoppers. And, well, we have an entire script written for this whole thing, analyzing the series. And we'll discuss it in further detail. Could you back off for a little so I can read? Alright, I'm going to start reading from the note we wrote down. Before we get into this, let's set up a bit of background information. Firstly, what is Islandhoppers? Well, let's start with a synopsis. Islandhoppers was a multi-chapter My Singing Monsters AU series idea that the two of us would talk about as a sort of mutual bedtime story between us back when we shared a bunk bed. It lasted from September 2016 until New Year's Day 2018. A little over a year, but there was a hiatus in 2017 when we were waiting for the Wublin Island and the Starhenge to be completed. The series mainly followed the trio of Drumpler, Furcorn, and Clamble, even more iconic trio, I dare you. The main settings were Strine's Elemental Islands. I called them Hyper Islands, Jungle, Summit, Heavenly, Deep Sea Moon, and Volcanic Islands. There's also an arc where we included Calypso's then known as Creation Central Islands. Bone, Magic, Shipwreck, Chemical, and Medieval Islands. The final arc took place on all of the official islands, but we'll get back to that later. The entire reason the series exists is because Strimes forgot to include Drumpler on the first version of Summit Island. No, I'm not making this up, that's the actual reason. With introductions out of the way, prepare for us to summarize and criticize our own series. And I should get it out of the way right now. The series contains some stuff that would not fly in any official My Singing Monsters material.
Oh boy.
Get rid of the capital T. This includes racism, a suicide attempt, a pretty grotesque scene involving creep school, dictatorship, a prison, get rid of the capital D and A, in war, necromancy, sexual harassment, and a lot of ultimately trivial deaths. If you're okay with this, then get ready for a wild ride. There might be some missing stuff here since this all happened a while ago, but we'll try to recount this to the best of our abilities.
Alright.
The series starts with our main character, Drumpler. The first arc of Chapter 1 centers around Drumpler's first day at Summit Academy. He, I know monsters are canonically genderless, but this series predates that information, meets some of his classmates, which include his new best friend Furcorn, as well as the bully, Eboscus. There's also Pango and Ma, who are gay, but they didn't really add anything to the story, so we'll probably never mention them again. T-Rox was also a student and a secondary character, but I honestly don't remember why he even contributed. Deej was the math teacher, and the English teacher was either Congo or Pom Pom, even though monsters have their own language. I believe the other was the science teacher. Yelmet was the principal, as well as the mayor of Summit Island.
Oh boy.
For some reason, he had a voice that sounded like a loud and obnoxious... A voice. You had a voice sounded like... I'm sorry, we're editing this script as we go because no one didn't proofread it. Sounded like a loud and obnoxious text-to-speech program. He was also so fat that he had to be rolled around on a wagon.
I don't know why Yelmet was treated like this.
After school, Furcorn takes Drumpler to meet his father figure, Clamble. Clamble is a merchant, but he was cursed to always mess something up if he tries to do anything himself. I think he made Ludwig mad or something.
It was never really explained.
Speaking of Ludwig... most of the Celestials, except for Ludwig, Syncopite, and Galvana, but I don't think Syncopite actually appeared because of the timing of its release, are kind of dead. We will elaborate on this when the topic becomes relevant. Anyways, Drumpler decides to be Clamble's second employee. Along the way, they met a bunch of Summit Island inhabitants. This includes Embrach, who was Furcorn's father, as well as a farmer that provided goods for Clamble's shop. Pom Pom, Susan, and Hula ran a hair salon. Don't ask why Hula is here. There was also an arc where Riff's rare cousin and came to visit. Riff trashed his cousin's house and stole something from someone. After this, Yelmet kicked him out of Summit Island. He shouldn't be here in the first place, considering the lore that is established later in this chapter. There was also another arc where Drumpler met the Oracle, Ludwig. He met his spirit Wublin, Timpa, in a dream during this arc. I believe Grumpire was Ludwig's assistant. Another arc saw Drumpler want to know why Boskus was being mean to him, so he went to Ludwig. Ludwig somehow sent him back in time to spy on a younger Boskus. It turns out that Drumpler's previous reincarnation, Rare Drumpler, used to bully Boskus. But one day, Boskus snapped and pushed him off of a cliff. Boskus immediately hid in a nearby cabin, and Rare Drumpler's death was deemed a suicide. Boskus already had a rough life since he lived alone without either of his parents. His father had a falling out with his mother, or his father may have had a falling out with his mother, Kana, so he doesn't visit his mother anymore. His father also doesn't want anything to do with him and would rather live in a tent in the mountains.
Don't ask.
After finding this out, Drumpler heads back to his kind to tell Boskus everything he knows. Somehow this causes the two to look past the bullying and become friends.
Yeah.
Don't ask questions, because apparently Boskus didn't either.
Oh, jeez.
The Dipsters made their appearance near the end of this chapter to tell Drumpler and Furcorn about a world outside of Summit Island. Drumpler and Furcorn decided that they wanted to explore the world, but Clamble warns them not to go, since moving into other islands is illegal. Don't ask how Boskus and Rare Riff were allowed to travel, because we never came up with an explanation for that. The Dipsters distract the gate guard, Chorister, so that Drumpler and Furcorn could sneak over to Jungle Island. And once they pass the gate, Clamble sees them and runs after them. The gate closes behind them before Clamble could bring them back to Summit Island, trapping them in this new environment. This marks the end of Chapter 1.
So that was chapter 1. Thing is, a lot of stuff. There was a lot of stuff we didn't mention. Here's stuff we didn't mention, like how most of this was just. Most of this time I was spent and focusing on inhabitants of the island that never appeared again.
Yeah, we did a lot of filler here.
Oh, trust me, that's not even the worst of it.
Yeah.
Anyways.
We don't remember much of Chapter 2, but that could just be because not a lot of interesting things happened. The most noteworthy thing to talk about is the introduction of combat, because there was also a video game. This was also a video game concept for some reason. The overall plot of this oh, by the way, the combat was like, it was like one of those Warriors games, sort of
hack and slash
type game.
Yeah.
Like you were at a 3D field.
Yeah, it's a hack and slash.
Like, yeah, it was like a 3D brawler thing. And like Bayonetta or the Warriors games.
Yeah.
Right. The most noteworthy thing to talk about is, the overall plot of this chapter involves our main trio being chased down by a rare Repetillo. My version, not the official one, because that didn't exist.
If you're wondering...
In case you're wondering what my rare Repetillo looks like, well, you're in luck, because it was this thing.
Ugh.
It was a snake thing.
I don't know what it is.
Open up the next one and move on to the thing. Alright. Causing them to seek shelter in a cave. Inside this cave, they encounter some friendly monsters that were hiding from the savage monsters of Jungle Island. Among this group were 26 furcorns, each named with a letter of the alphabet. The consonants were common furcorns and the vowels were rares. Y was a common rare hybrid, but would have been an epic if they existed at the time. This chapter also had a few character development moments. One of these involved Furcorn standing up for himself and becoming a role model for Jungle Island's furcorns. Clamble also forged himself some armor and became a rare Clamble at some point. Until the end of the chapter. Rare Clamble then proceeded to beat the shit out of Rare Repetillo. This chapter was concluded with the trio leading the army of Furcorn to take down Rare Candelabra, which was just Candelabra, which was... We'll go back to the sentence. I want to finish reading that. Which was just Rare Candelabra, but some parts of it were photo negative.
What the hell is this?
Yeah.
This is during a phase where Alex,
I was obsessed with making things photo negative for some reason.
Yeah, don't ask.
Oh, also the Ruditoot might have been my rare Ruditoot.
We don't remember enough.
It was something like overgrown or something.
Yeah. Anyways. This sentence.
Right. This chapter concluded with the trio leading the army of Furcorn to take down Rare Candelabra, which is just Candelabra, but some parts were photo negative. They received a surprise help from the Dipsters and managed to beat Candelabra so hard that she came to her senses and stopped being photo negative. I don't remember what other characters were significant in this chapter, but my rare Ruditoot might have been one of them. Jungle Island was at peace and everyone went home until the gang decided to travel to another island. This marks the end of Chapter 2.
Yeah, Chapter 2 was... Yeah, not a lot really happened.
There's 7 chapters, by the way.
7 chapters.
If you're wondering.
Not a lot happened in Chapter 2 other than that. Also, this is, again, only when Candelabra was out.
Yeah, Candelabra was the only Quint, so it was like the most powerful natural monster at the time.
Yeah. So, oh boy, this is where things get weird.
I don't really remember what happened between Summit Island and Deep Sea. Between Jungle Island, you mean? Between Jungle Island and Deep Sea Island. So it must not have been very important. As for Deep Sea Island itself, I at least remember some of the events that transpired there. One of the more minor things I can think of is that there was a rare Thrumble that tried to assassinate the protagonist, but he ran away after he was caught in the act.
Nice.
So here's the show the rare Thrumble.
Nice, that was a very pointless addition.
Like, why was this here?
He didn't...
Why was this evil rare Thrumble here?
Funny thing is, his bio mentioned...
and that they're actually nicer than common Thrumbles, so that's funny.
Yeah. Anyways.
There was also some kind of shop ran by Fangor. The main event of the chapter started when a rare Shelby named Sheldon called for the attention of our trio from a back alley. Apparently Sheldon was cursed by the island's rare geode, so that everyone he encounters is passionately in love with him. This becomes evident when our trio starts to find him attractive after being in his presence. I guess it doesn't work as strongly on outsiders because the protagonists were easily able to resist it. They then decide to try to counteract the curse by making him as unappealing as possible.
Oh boy.
I don't remember most of the things they did, but I do remember that they got him to bathe in mayonnaise and pickles. Unfortunately, this had no effect and everyone was still down bad for him. They then took him to Rare Geode and they begged her to remove the curse. Somehow it worked and Rare Geode agreed to lift the curse under one condition. The condition was that Sheldon stopped trying to flirt with her because he'd been humming on to her for quite a while now. Sheldon learned a lesson about sexual harassment and agreed to leave her alone. Unfortunately, Fangor still simped for Sheldon. This chapter ends with our protagonist meeting Yelmet at the entrance to Summit Island. Yelmet was jealous of their trip to Deep Sea Island because he always wanted to go there himself. Yelmet tried to cross the border himself and got caught by Chorister. He then explained that it was only fair that he got to visit Deep Sea Island because the protagonist did, and that this got all of them in trouble, so they were sent to a prison on Moon Island. And this marks the end of Chapter 3.
Nice job, Yelmet.
Yay!
Yeah.
What a great mayor!
Then
Come
there's...
from the mayors.
Anyways,
I don't really have much to. I don't really have much to say about Chapter 4 because as I don't really remember much of what happened. Chapter 4 starts with Drumpor in a prison cell. He managed to convince the rare Thrumble that was trying to assassinate him in the last chapter to help him get out of to let him out of prison. Don't ask how he did it, because I honestly have no idea. For a while, this chapter was a stealth mission where the goal was to escape. I don't know why Drumpor didn't try to find any of his friends. It all worked out, though, because the house that Drumpor and Rare Thrumble happened to take cover, it turned out to be where Clamble and Furcor were hiding. Apparently, they escaped earlier. That prison must have terrible security. I think the house belonged to Stog, but I'm not sure. After they left the house, they had to fight Creepuscule for some reason. Nice, they had to Creepuscule for Drumpler summoned Timpa, and together they yanked Creepuscule was played off like they were removing a nail with the back of a hammer. Did you know that the back of a hammer is called a peen?
Jeez, oh my...
Anyways, his Creepuscule scuttled away while bleeding profusely.
Was that necessary?
Also, Yelmet is apparently dead. After this revelation, the gang is put on trial at Heavenly Island, which is governed by Rare Riff. Ignoring the fact that he's a criminal too, he sends the trio to a volcanic island to atone for their sins. That's where Chapter 4
You see,
ends.
Heavenly Island was originally its own...
it was going to be its own chapter, but we didn't really have any ideas for it, so we skipped it.
We just made it... We made it... It just didn't say footnote for Chapter 4.
Yeah. Oh boy, Chapter 5. This chapter's a long one, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to recall everything correctly. I believe the chapter starts with Drumpor or isolated again. You put with twice. There's also the possibility that Clamble and Furcorn were important in this chapter, but I really don't remember. I'm assuming the trio was together because I don't remember Drumpor searching for his friends in this chapter. I do remember that Drumpor ran into Boscus, who came here searching for his mom, but decided to team up with Drumpor when he couldn't find her. They met Candelabra, who is the ruler of Volcanic Island. Drumpor asked her where Yelmet was, and they said that he was in the labyrinth. The labyrinth is where all the worst criminals go, and it's guarded by Rare Tring. Obviously, we're talking about my fan-made Rare Tring here.
Oh boy, you want to know what that?
This fan-made Rare Tring was hideous.
It was inverted and
Just why? Why is it bleeding?
Why is it bleeding out?
Oh, just a second. All right. Anyways, back to the thing. All right, where were we? Okay.
Rare Tring.
Obviously, okay, yeah. Drumpler and Co. tried to distract the Rare Tring, but failed, which resulted in Rare Tring throwing them into the labyrinth. I have no idea why they tried to avoid Rare Tring, if they wanted into the labyrinth anyways, but I guess it doesn't really make a difference. After ending up in the first layer of the labyrinth, Bone Island.
Oh.
Yeah, that's funny. They eventually find Yelmet. It's important to note that we were referring to Calypso's Bone Island rather than the official one. That didn't exist yet. It turns out Yelmet had been... The whole being the only one here while listening to the Cringy stories. Yeah! What's up? Alright. Anyways. So Yelmet had been stripped of the feature he prides himself the most on. His text-to-speech voice.
Yeah.
Presumably, Alex, me, didn't like doing that voice. After forming a band with the monsters that were on Calypso's Bone Island, the gang hikes their way to the exit, overcoming the harsh terrain of Bone Island. I unfortunately do not remember who these monsters were, since Calypso's Bone Island is now private. I do remember that Drumpler was on the island, and because there was an evil rare Drumpler that they had to keep locked up in Bone Island so he wouldn't escape. The rest of these were battle gauntlets, so I won't spend too much time on them. They escaped Magic Island with some help from Timpa after putting on a show, which led to Shipwreck Island. On Shipwreck Island, they fought against hordes of Tweedle before defeating Poke to escape.
Oh boy.
Chemical Island actually had some significance in the form of a rematch with Creepuscule, which ends with the same gruesome finish.
Damn.
Wajay showed up to help defeat Creepuscule, announcing that he remembers his past life as Atmos.
Oh no.
Timpa and Creepuscule are also reminded of their past lives as Furnos and Tort. They then cleaned Dermot, who remembered his past life as Hornicle. This part was slightly retconned on before the conclusion of the series. Timpa and Dermot originally weren't Celestials, but I associated them with Furnos and Hornicle later on. Finally, we reached Medieval Island. And this one was the one that consisted of more or this one was
This one.
This one was you don't need to put one was twice, you dingus. This one consisted this one consisted of more battles as our gang climbed to the top of the castle, where they met Rare Tring, who was somehow controlling Ludwig. After defeating this terrifying duo, Candelabra showed up and scolded Rare Tring, who turned out to be her son. Candelabra pardoned the tortured souls, and they were allowed to go free. The gang returned to Summit Island, and Yelmet came into the sensible conclusion that he wasn't fit to be mayor.
Oh, I wonder what gave that away.
As it turns out, the town's founder, Mammoth, found out about everything and that happened recently. After this, he came to the mayor's office to scold Yelmet, and then Mammoth gets scolded by his son, Boscus. Boscus goes off on Mammoth, who abandoned his own son and decided to live in the mountains to avoid responsibility. I mean, yeah, I don't blame him. I don't mean Boscus, that is. Clamble was made mayor on the spot because he's way more responsible than Yelmet ever was. Also, apparently, Clamble's curse disappeared during the course of this story. Though, I don't think I ever addressed how. Maybe he, did enough, stood up for himself.
Enough good or some shit, I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe Regio removed it for him. In Deep Sea Island.
I don't know.
Anyway, Mammoth, realizing that he's a terrible role model and father, runs away. Drumpler decides to follow him since he doesn't want Mammoth to be alone and upset. Drumpler soon finds Mammoth at the edge of a cliff about to jump off. Apparently, Mammoth had came to the conclusion that the only way to right his wrong... You put... right... To the wrong right. To right his wrongs was to reincarnate and be a better person in his next life. Drumpler convinces him not to jump and urges him to try and make amends with the monsters of Summit Island, especially Boscus. Mammoth and Boscus have a heartfelt conversation, and Mammoth agrees to be a better father. By the way, the idea for the monsters being angry at Mammoth was Noah's idea, but
Yeah.
the suicide thing was all Alex.
What the hell,
Me.
Alex?
I had issues. I probably still do have issues. After what happened at a medieval island, Ludwig decides to summon Drumpler to his dwelling. Hey, Ludwig decides that it's time for Drumpler to learn the truth about everything.
Oh boy.
To summarize, Wubbox is a dictator who watches over and sets rules on the Hyper Islands, and he killed most of the Celestials to create Wublins. Ludwig, Syncopite, and Galvana were the only survivors. I don't know why he set up all these immigration laws, though. Drumpler decides that he wants to try and take down Wubbox to liberate the Hyper Islands. This is where Chapter 5 ends.
Yeah, I don't remember one of MSM.
We'll do a video on that eventually, maybe next year or an anniversary month.
This is
Yikes.
anyways,
Yikes. All right. Chapter 6 was really long and weird. and
that's a really funny way to describe
and it was
something.
mainly just filler until Wublin Island was finished. We also had a filler arc involving the Wordos and Calypso's second set of islands in this chapter, but Noah decided we were too close to the end for another irrelevant filler arc, even though Chapter 6 was basically one giant filler arc.
Also said islands not all of the islands are even around anymore.
Yeah. Basically, the gang traveled to the Cannon Islands, starting with Tribal Island. Ludwig it had suggested that our protagonists meet Kana there, so that's why they went there first. Kongo had accompanied them since he was friends with Kana, and was surprised at how high the levels of our main quartet had gotten. The reason it was Kongo specifically was because that's the monster that represents me on Tribal Island. It says Alex, but I'm just gonna correct it. When they finally meet Kana, who Boskus is very happy to see. Kana hadn't seen her son since Wubbox trapped her in amber on Tribal Island. Kana explained that Wubbox was a mad scientist, and she used to be his assistant before he went mad. She then expressed that she would be glad to take him down, but they needed to gather an army first. The next place they go is Sugarbush Island to enlist the aid of the Sugar Fam, mainly because of Sugarbuzz's technical know-how. They also get introduced to Singy, S-I-N-G-I, an annoying helper or AI that parodies Siri for some reason.
Don't ask.
Like Sugarbush begs them not to turn on Singy.
Don't ask.
I don't understand. And they went to Ethereal Island to meet with... yes, another one of Kana's friends. For some reason, I decided to give every common and rare ethereal their own introduction scene. This was probably the most egregious filler arc in the entire series. After recruiting the ethereals, they went to the natural islands to recruit all of the natural and seasonal monsters. Nothing of interest happened on any of the natural islands. Finally, they went to Wublin Island. Of course, it wasn't as simple as waltzing into Wubbox's lair. Upon arriving, they find out the entrance to Wublin Island's interior is locked. To unlock it, they need to ask around the outside of the island. Our group meets 3 of my fan-made rare Wublins. Hence, those being... Hey, come on. What are you doing?
Alright.
Don't be scared. You can open the pictures.
Alright.
Weiler. Rare Thwok. Next. Jay. Rare Waja. And Slicer. Rare Zucker. Alright. Right. So, this trio of Wublins took them to their favorite fast food place, Dermy's Diner, ran by Rare Dermot. Who was just clean Dermot. Where they discovered a way to get inside the island so our protagonists could confront Wubbox. They decided to talk about with everyone on the island, and did I say discovered? I meant discussed. They decided to talk with everyone on the island before encountering the mayor, Dwumroll. Dwumroll handed them the key to the island without asking any questions. Chapter 6 concludes with our quartet descending the stairwell to Wubbox's lab, accompanied by Waje and Timpa.
Yeah, a whole lot of nothing happened.
And moving on to the final chapter, Chapter 7. Oh boy. There's surprisingly little to talk about in the final chapter, since it was just a gauntlet of combat and puzzles. I do remember that one of the puzzles was heavily inspired by the Gravity Falls episode Into the Bunker. There were also hordes of Brump and Zinth and Scargo that our protagonists had to fight off while avoiding electrified water. Finally, the chapter concludes with a boss fight against Wubbox. After defeating Wobox, Galvana shows up and angrily tells Wobox that he misunderstood what they wanted for him to do. Wobox was supposed to create new life from scratch, not murder Celestials to do so. Also, the dictatorship made no sense. After Wobox receives the news, the entire lab erupts into flames. Apparently, Kana's army attacked the island while Wobox was being distracted. Galvana warps everyone to safety as the entirety of Woblin Island burns. The series ends on a cliffhanger with Kana claiming rulership over Woblin Island, now dubbed Fire Island. Ah, I remember Fire Island on my channel. Oh god, that was a terrible song. The whole part with Galvana was very last minute, since we thought Wobox and Galvana were the same at the time.
Yeah.
Again, we'll make a video on the lore of MSM next year. So that was Islandhoppers. We don't really know what to say about it, other than the fact that it was really weird. This is a product of a very different time, back when MSM lore was still largely unknown and we couldn't just reach out to the monster handlers for answers. Overall, this series was a lot of fun and taught me quite a bit about storytelling. It's fun to look back at and laugh at this series now, especially because it was such a big deal to us at the time. What we have yet to mention, though, is that this wasn't the last big MSM story/game concept that we came up with. We had another one called Celestial Hijinks. But that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
Maybe also next year, like maybe on Starhenge's anniversary or something. I don't know.
I don't know. But yeah, that I wanted to make this video for a long time.
Because it felt like this is just something we had to share because it's so weird and My Singing Monsters is such a core part of the channel.
Like, oh, hey, 2 likes on the video.
Okay, good for you, you statistics nerd.
Or 1 person's watching. Anyways, yeah, Celestial Hijinks will probably be something next year. I don't know.
It's gonna cover the story of Zubao.
Zubao.
No, it's pronounced Zubao apparently.
Oh.
Of Zubao the Galvana and their journey across the 12 elemental planets. It's of the musical solar system thing. It's definitely a huge alternate universe thing.
Alex actually conceived this idea in the hiatus.
Yeah, and it was.
I actually tried starting it during that.
Yeah, I think Celestial Hijinks was a lot more fun than Islandhoppers. It had a lot more consistent of a story. So I'm really excited to talk about that one
sometime in the future. Yeah. Anyways, that's
really all we have to say here.
And at least we didn't wait till the last day of anniversary month to do this.
Also, side note, I was gonna make an epic Wallbox reaction video. I had it, I recorded it, and then
it failed.
And the recording corrupted while it tried to fail because it was too long for my iPad space limit to handle.
Yeah.
Also, that sucks.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm Nozarin.
And I'm Emery, and bonjour, my wonderful viewers. See you in the next video.
Yeet.